Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpattyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubi Tatchanat. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. God is one who unites us with our Guru. And Guru unites us with God. Like Swami Tejo Mayananda. I'll share it again more slowly. God is one who unites us with our Guru. And Guru unites us with God. Between God and Guru, there is one more facet, and that is Grantha, also known as scripture or map. What we are doing in this course as a community is we are uniting ourselves with our Guru, who's uniting us with our Grantha, who's uniting us with our God. And what's incredible about all of this is none of this is outside. All of this is within. The more pure one's mind, the more quiet one's inner world becomes, and then one can start to listen to their intellect. The more pure one's mind, that means one's inner world is quieter. One can start to listen to the intellect more. It is the intellect that makes a human unique. It is the intellect that can hold an ideal. It is the intellect that can inquire. The intellect is that transition from mind to divinity. Just like between Guru and God is Grantha, between mind, which I feel so heavily right now, and divinity, it is the intellect. This relationship between a quiet mind listening to an ideal intellect is being depicted. There is a visualization that's being shown to us in the form of dialogues, samvadas. Though this is quite expensive, for now, Rishi Uddhava is asking Bhagavan Krishna that when you dissolve your name and your form, what will I follow? What will the people follow to keep in line with Dharma? And Bhagavan Krishna, he gives another dialogue between Raja Yadu and Rishi Dattatreya. Raja Yadu is asking Rishi Dattatreya, how is it that you're happy? You have nothing outside. I have everything outside. Yet you have everything inside, and I don't have that inside. How are you happy? And Rishi Dattatreya begins to share with Raja Yadu how to be happy. This is exactly what Bhagavan Krishna is teaching Rishi Uddhava too. This dialogue between Rishi Dattatreya and Raja Yadu is in the 11th section, the 7th chapter, the 32nd verse. 11:7:32. It's important to note this because I'm flying through this. You may feel that I'm moving very slowly. But as someone who's studied this and is now sharing this, I'm flying through this. The most recent teachers that Rishi Dattatreya shares with Raja Yadu, whom he's learned from, in summary, these teachers are living by having a rich body and a poor mind. A rich body, poor mind. A rich body, poor mind is a personality that doesn't know how to say or follow no. When you don't know how to say no, when you don't know how to follow no, then you do have a rich body, but a poor mind. I observe this a lot in my own life in terms of parenting. It's much harder to say no and to implement no than to go the other way around. Just say yes. Eat this if you want to. Sleep then if you want to. Some of us are like that. Please reflect on that. Rich body, poor mind, doesn't know no. And if you want to deepen this more, if you don't learn how to say and follow no, you never learn how to let go. Now, if you want to take this to an extreme, not letting go is essentially a form of addiction, correct? I can't let go of taking this intoxicant. I'm addicted to it. What are these teachers? Number 11, the moth. The moth is lusty, doesn't know no, can't let go of the sense of sight. A way that we can practice not being the moth is appreciate what you see. Instead of trying to possess what you see, indulge in what you see, particularly other bodies, beautiful people, handsome people, appreciate that they're beautiful, that they're handsome. What helps me is when I see a beautiful person, a handsome person, I'm reminded of Bhagavan's Vibhuti. That all humans are great, but there's some that are better looking, but that source is not that person. That beautiful, handsome creature, the genesis of that is Bhagavan. Appreciate. Number 12, the honeybee, which is lusty towards smell, the sense of smell. That's the negative, but there's one positive aspect of the honeybee. A honeybee only takes the essence of flowers. Never takes too much, is very gentle with flowers. How we can practice not being the honeybee in a negative sense is to learn. To learn. A honeybee is one that is lusty towards this sense of smell. Why I'm bringing up to learn, every one of us is born with a vasana, correct? The V behind me. And the more you learn, you change that vasana from being stinky to being fragrant. From the anatma vasana, that I'm just this body, to the atma vasana, that I am the spirit. Number 13, the elephant. The elephant is lusty towards touch. Towards touch. The way we can practice not being like an elephant, our verb is move. Move. When one is lusty towards touch, one is stuck on touching this or that. But if you keep moving, then you're not stuck then, correct? Keep moving. You have to sleep on a soft bed, good. But you keep moving. If you have to sleep on the hard ground, you keep moving. When one keeps moving, they become more light-footed. They're softer with everything that they touch. For Vivek, I often reflect on everything I'm touching is existence, is Brahman, so I should be soft with what I'm touching, correct? Number 14, the honey gatherer. The honey gatherer sort of doesn't fit into the sequence of rich body, poor mind, but the honey gatherer is an icon of greed. That honey bee is hoarding, then the honey gatherer comes and takes what is being hoarded. The way we can practice dissolving greed is to commit. Commit, particularly your resources, to further dharma. Commit this in advance. There is a center that has been struggling to find its own home for some time. So when I was interacting with some of those seekers while I was in Trinidad, I told them in advance that when I come there next year, that I will commit $25,000. I'll bring 25. The few families that are there have to bring 75. I don't have $25,000. But I have intense faith. And every commitment that I've made, now I'm 14 years and 11 months into my service, those commitments have never failed. And because I know Vivek is not the one who's providing. I am not the Datta. I know who the Datta is. Everyone in Cleveland, please internalize what I'm sharing. The $150,000 that we need for our own home is already sitting in the assembly. You know that. I know some of your families individually that can give $150,000, and that will mean nothing towards your lifestyle. Let us not be like that honeybee, because that honey gatherer will come. We may as well be proactive and commit. Number 15 is the deer, D-E-E-R, which is lusty towards sound. Lusty towards sound. What we can learn from this, our practice is inquire. Inquire. I have found that as long as we're listening to something, the news, the radio, people's arguments, we stop inquiring. But all of you as seekers, when you're not listening to anything, I feel like your default is you start to inquire into what is all of this? Who am I? One of the best parts of my day is when I go to pick up our children. I never said drive them back home. I just said when I go to pick them up when I'm by myself. And I have this 20-minute ride where I don't listen to anything. I'm just going towards my dharma, my seva. And during this time, I keep thinking, what am I doing? But it's not a, what am I doing with desperation? It's a what am I doing with inquiry? So in terms of sound, really I'm trying to share is invest in silence. And finally, the 16th teacher, the fish, which is lusty towards taste. I think many in our communities, our Indian communities, are like fish, yes? There's so many times when I travel and here I'm teaching about Bhagavatam and people will go and prepare for food that I have to eat. I don't care about that food. You shouldn't care either. Listen to Bhagavatam. So the practice is exercise. For those who are disciplined with exercise, they naturally become disciplined with eating. Yes? Sometimes when I eat ice cream, I think to myself, this is a 30-minute bike ride. This 3 minutes of ice cream, I'm going to have to ride a bike for 30 minutes now. That's a poor trade-off. I still do it, but it is a poor trade-off. I blame my parents. I blame the Indian community. All of these practices I'm sharing with you are not in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam doesn't say exercise. These are all Vivek's own buddhi. Through Vivek's reflections and practices, I have found these are ways that I am not like a fish, elephant, and so on. We continue, 3 more teachers. The 17th is a famous one. It is a courtesan. A courtesan in Sanskrit is Veshya. A more harsh term for this is prostitute. This courtesan has a particular name. It is Pingala. Pingala. I'm reading to you the 11th section, the 8th chapter, the 31st verse, 11:8:31 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes? Vivekji, in Bhagavad Gita, there's not 3 numbers. We only have 2 numbers. Santam samipe ramanam rati pradam vitta pradam nityamimam vihaya akamadam dukkha bhayadi shoka moha pradam tucchamaham bhajegnya. Great revelation. I'll read it all to you in English. Alas, giving up the delight-giving and bounteous lover seated closest to me in the heart, I, an ignorant human, have been running after petty creatures who cannot fulfill my wants, but only give me sorrow, fear, worry, and delusion. Here is some of the context. Pingala, she was a famous courtesan, one whose clientele was more rich. And one day she had dressed up, made herself very attractive, and she was standing outside of her small home. She was in the doorway, essentially like when you go to a restaurant and someone's saying, come look at this menu, come inside and eat. She's doing that with her own appearance. And someone would walk by, but she would sense that she will find a richer customer. So she would go inside, then come back outside. Someone would come by. She would sense, oh, I can have a richer customer. And in this restlessness, she went back and forth with this greater expectation. And as she's doing this, it becomes midnight. And so that day is complete now, and she receives nothing from anyone. Upon her ambition being denied, she became deeply reflective. And she starts to share. This is known as Pingala Gita. We've come across many Gitas in Srimad Bhagavatam. Pingala Gita is the 11th section, the 8th chapter, verses 30 to 42. Please read this for yourself, 30 to 42. Here are some high-level points in her deep reflections. She shares she is an ignorant human because she's selling the opportunity to be divine. Only a human can be divine. And what is she doing with this opportunity? She's becoming more body identified, hers and others. So really, she's selling this opportunity. She's prostituting this opportunity. And she especially shares this because she's living in Videha. Videha is where Devi Sita was born, where Raja Janaka lives, meaning it's a place filled with satsang, and still she's wasting this opportunity. It's worse. For someone who doesn't know that being a human, you can be enlightened, if they're not pursuing that, it's almost justifiable. But for someone who knows they can be enlightened, to not invest in that, it's worse. She shares that I keep stretching my hands. And you have to visualize that, see my hands. I keep stretching my hands out like a beggar to other beggars when all they can give me is sorrow. And that's shared. Many of those words were used. Does that make sense to beg for sorrow? I want you to take my sorrow. Don't give me more sorrow. And now she shares, near the end of this Gita, this is a famous line. It's line 1 of the 44th verse. Line 1 of the 44th verse. Asha hi paramam dukkham, nairasham paramam sukham. Here, asha, in your books it may say hope or aspiration, but many of you are named Asha, so you may be offended by this. Here, asha means ambition. Ambition, he indeed, paramam, highest, dukkham. Ambition leads to sorrow. Nairashyam, which means not ambition, paramam sukham, leads to the highest joy. Please reflect on this. Don't misinterpret this, that you should just go about your life tamisically, just doing nothing. Change the word ambition to aspiration. Ambition is me being passionate for that which is lower. Aspiration is me being passionate for that which is higher. If you're passionate about that which is lower, obviously you'll be led to sorrow. And if you're passionate about that which is higher, obviously you'll be led to peace. A few more insights before we continue. With these revelations, she feels that instead of stretching her hands out and begging from beggars, she starts to understand and appreciate that Bhagavan can fulfill all of her wants and needs. He loves her the most. He is the closest to her. And so, instead of using her body for others, she starts to use her body to serve. And she sleeps peacefully at night. She was so restless during the day, and at night, with these insights, she slept peacefully. You don't need melatonin. You don't need children's Tylenol. You do to an extent. But what we need to do is have these aspirations. Our practice, associate. As you associate, so you think. As you think, so you develop. If you associate with those who are dependent, you will become more dependent. And here's a part that's not found in this Bhagavatam, but other commentators share this. Why is it that she had these amazing reflections in one day. It's midnight. One would feel restless and sleepy, but she is having all of these reflections. Rishi Dattatreya was a wanderer. He traveled lots. And he was watching her as she was watching others. And the breeze passed from his body to her body, and the independence with which he lived affected her. For those who are more faithful, the impossible is possible. What I've just stated makes no sense. It is not logical. I had asked our Balavar students, what day is it today? They said December 4th. I asked them, what day will it be next week? You know, when they come here again, they said December 5th. See, logic doesn't work with them. Logic doesn't work with us either. Reflect on that in a faithful way. Number 18, the 18th teacher is a osprey, which is like a small eagle. In Sanskrit, it is a kurara. And there's not a lot of details shared here, but this osprey finds a dead carcass. Carcass means it's dead, correct? Those are redundant words? Okay. Finds a carcass and takes a fairly sizable part of that flesh and is flying away. Now, who sees this osprey? Bigger ospreys, eagles. And so they don't peck at the meat, they're at the flesh, they're pecking at the osprey. That osprey is getting attacked for holding this flesh and is trying to fly away, and then finally has this reflection, I should let go. And as soon as that osprey lets go of that flesh, what do the other ospreys do? They stop harming that osprey, that kurara. The implication for us, these other osprey or eagles that are pecking at this kurara, this main osprey, that pecking is coming from death. Death is always pecking at us, correct? Look at your eye watches. You'll see death pecking away. That's why I don't wear a watch. Then death doesn't peck at me. Death is always pecking away. And so what do you have to do? You should let go of death before death holds on to you. And who fulfilled this? Raja Parikshita eventually. When his body dies, he knows he's not his body. Our practice, this is practice 18. For those who are just joining Bhagavatam this year, this is our 12th class. What an amazing 12 classes you've had. 18 sadhanas. Simplify. Simplify. When you have a simple lifestyle, nobody is jealous of you. You think people are jealous of my lifestyle? They feel bad for me. When I tell people about my life, they say bichara. Bichara is a Hindi word for like pitiable. But I actually feel very good about that. I don't want anyone to feel jealous. See, not being jealous of people is obviously a great strength, but not inciting jealousy is a much subtler strength. Simplify your lifestyle. The flashier you are, everyone's going to look and everyone's going to peck. Yes. And finally, our teenager. Lots to learn from teenagers. This is a good learning from a teenager. In Sanskrit, the word is Kumari. Kumari. I'm now in chapter 9. This is the 10th verse of the 9th chapter. Vase bahunam kalahaha bhaved varta dvayorapi eka eva chare tasmad kumarya iva kankanaha. In English, very practical. If too many people live together, quarrel will be the result. Nobody needs Bhagavatam for this. If there are two only, even then, time will be taken with mutual conversations and not contemplation on the Atma. So I would travel alone, like the single bangle on the girl's arm, conversing with none. Here is the background to this. The teenager that's being referenced here, she is in a poor family. And the sign of this poorness, and please don't take it personally, okay? This is just a cultural matter, is her bangles. They're made of shankaha. They're made out of conch. Stones you see in the sea, essentially, it's not gold, it's not jeweled, it's something that she made herself, okay? And people came to her home and she's trying to be hospitable to them, but there's no fridges back in the day. They didn't have granola bars. So she has to prepare fresh food for them. And that means that she has to bang the paddy, the wheat, the rice, to cook it, to feed it, and so on. And she has many bangles on her arms as she's doing this, and it's making so much noise, but they're conch bangles, so they're making more noise. And so what does she do? In her rush, she starts to break bangle after bangle, so it becomes quieter. And even with two bangles on each arm, as she's banging, what's happening? They're still banging. So she breaks off those two. Now she has one on each arm. And with only one on each arm, there is silence. And that's what Rishi Dattatreya is trying to point out. When you have this sense of aloneness, not loneliness. Loneliness means there's nobody around you, but you want people to be around you. Aloneness is a sense of inner security. When you have this sense of aloneness, you take fuller responsibility for your life. He references traveling here. When I came back from Port of Spain to Toronto, this was my 14th yatra. I never check bags. I only go on with carry-ons. Now, when we were at the baggage carousel, Vivek, again, only has his carry-ons, but my parents are with me. So I was carrying their bag, and I got pulled into secondary inspection. They thought there was some sort of shady exchange going on here. See, if I was by myself, I would have got home earlier. But if you have to carry other people's bags, you get into trouble. See, with that sense of aloneness, if I was alone, I'm not going to carry anyone's bags. I'll get in trouble for that. And I don't need anyone to carry my bags. I do this myself. And so humorously, there's a sharing in our culture. Where there is three, there is Bhranti. Anyone know what Bhranti means? Confusion or politics. Politics, okay? Now the primaries will be coming up in the States, yes? Bhranti. Where there's two, there is Kranti. What is the English word for Kranti? Anger. Anger. Right? Even if it's your mistake, if someone else is there, blame them. Get angry at them. And where there is one, there is Shanti. Shanti means quietude, peace. See how beautiful our silence retreats are, aligned with this. I keep telling you, eventually in this retreat, you should feel that I don't even exist. Some of you are so good, you feel that all the time. Even as I'm teaching you, I don't exist. Here is our practice. Seclude. Seclude. Every day, find time to be in solitude with yourself, tuned into Shanti. Our 3 practices, they are, what did I say for the Vaishya? No, simplify was for the osprey. Associate, thank you. Associate, thank you. Simplify, and now finally, yes, associate, simplify, and seclude. Sorry, I was thinking about forthcoming teachers. We have 8 more teachers to reflect on. 5 more teachers to reflect on.